If you were having coffee with me, I'd welcome you to my projection of the world, where you only know what I tell you and trust that I'm not trying to pull one over your eyes. If you popped by for my last coffee share, oh my, another variant. Well, I mentioned the variant of concern, Omicron. So, it turns out that the variant may have been elsewhere in the world before it was detected by the genius genomic sequencers of Southern Africa. But parts of the world just seem bent on exposing deep-seated prejudices. So Omicron, what's your worst symptom so far? Panic with a touch of xenophobia. Newspapers around the globe have carried some headlines and imagery which, to put kindly, should not have been allowed to pass the editor's desk. A German newspaper had the headline which translated to "The virus from Africa is with us. A mistake, its consequences, and an apology. Government hunts for African visitors." If you were having coffee with me, I'll tell you that Carlos's Omicron cartoon seems very much on the nose. It made me chuckle a little bit, that made me sad. I may have snorted my coffee a little when I read a comment on my blog from Bold Michael about how Omicron is an anagram for moronic, and suddenly everything makes so much more sense. Too bad there's no vaccination for stupid. Something about this new variant seems to make people act very moronic indeed. Maybe the WHO guys should check if one of the symptoms of this variant includes abandoning all reasoning and science stuff. Just make gut reactions to things around you. Apparently the new virus has been detected in Zimbabwe, and that's about all I know. No further information. Oh, the president held a press conference and announced a raft of measures which were supposed to be effective immediately to combat the pandemic. When? With immediate effect. If you were having coffee with me, I would tell you that the problem with the announcement that should be carried out with immediate effect is that it means some of the things will not have been thought through, nor will they have support structures. How is it supposed to all work? A couple of days later, the government issued out the statutory instrument, which would make the measures binding. It's almost like the government is saying it doesn't want its citizens coming home for the holidays. But hey, there's a pandemic going on. Travel isn't really recommended. A government official made the somewhat insensitive remark that anyone who could afford to fly into Zimbabwe should be able to pay for quarantine since they can afford to travel. Maybe they are projecting from their travel budgets, or it's a symptom of the moronic variant. If you're having coffee with me, I'll tell you that I don't know if it's that variant again that made me sleep during geography class on map projection, or our curriculum did not care to go much into details on how what is passed off as the standard map of the world, the Mercator projection, is not necessarily proportional to their actual size, just vibes. While the map may have had its benefits and made some navigational sense, it gives a grossly inaccurate representation of how the world actually is. For example, Africa seems far much smaller than it really is. Did you know, matching square area for square area, you could overlay USA, China, India, and parts of Europe into Africa if you wanted a representation of how vast the continent of Africa really is. It's crazy how our view of the world is kind of moronic, blinkered by projections which we sometimes aren't even aware of. If you're having coffee with me, I'll tell you that on the 8th of July, on the 8th day of Christmas, my mobile service provider sent to us the early Christmas gift of hiking up the tariffs. I should rename them to the Grinch for trying to steal my Christmas. But the real Grinch is out there somewhere. Do you know who's probably breathing easier this holiday? The corruption exposing journalist Hopo Chingono, who was facing charges for incitement to violence since the run-up to the 31 July protest in 2020, and has had the charges against him dismissed by the High Court of Zimbabwe. Sometimes our judiciary feels weaponized against us, and once in a while they remind us that justice stands for something. And how funny how I wait for the other shoe to drop. Maybe it's the moronic variant affecting my trust in the world. What's going on in your neck of the woods? Oh, and how about the moronic case of the robber who staged a money heist and then posted their loot on social media, leading to their arrest? Whoopsie! That's Train again.